Hi, everyone. Uh, Hi, Miranda. How are you?
Hi, Madeline, and hi everyone again in our second M&M podcast.
Yes, second M&M chats. This time, we're going to talk about more real life scenarios because last time we were discussing online safety. So today is more about the real world, since that's where most of us are living and existing at the moment, not in lockdown, living our lives online.
Yeah, we are finally, at least some countries, not all, are now finally out of at least the most severe practice of lockdown. So people can at least do shopping again, and some can even travel. So that's good.
Yeah, it's been an intense summer.
Especially there, I believe, because here everything, of course, most of the countries were still closed, and your island was kind of open, so you had a lot of people traveling to the island, right?
Yeah, it's a little bit of an invasion at the moment because some tourist places have not closed, but they are very strict with what people can do and can't do. And here it's not relaxed, but it's a good vibe and it's a good place to have a holiday. So we are getting tourists from two other big destinations. And we don't only get their tourists. We get because with nice watches and nice bags and showing off some wealth. Also, they bring some criminals with them because if there is no criminals on where they where they were before, they travel just like everyone else for work. So it's a little bit intense here, to be honest. It has been. So yeah, but good lesson.
Absolutely. I think it's a whole new dynamic there now, and how to deal with which you are a bodyguard, as most people now know from our previous podcast, because we have explained what we did. And I think you are dealing with different types of threat at the moment.
Yeah, it's higher. It's because um, it's the same situation for so many, and now we're not going to go into criminology, but they make money. They need to make money too, and they look for whatever they can, and where the money is, they go where the opportunities are. They go, and we are now a target. So we adapt accordingly. So it's been hard work, but yeah, I like to learn things and get new experiences. So yeah, it's good, and it's temporary. It's not all year round, because then I
That's
wouldn't.
true.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's more of
I
a
would.
season always there. Yeah, but I just see overall in the world. I mean, let's be honest, the world is on fire, right? There are natural disasters. A lot of people are dealing with this. Well, let's call it epidemic. Where they lose jobs and even loved ones, and a lot of people are quite tense. And then, of course, on top of that, we have the wars going on. So yeah, I just see a whole different dynamic in the behavior of people at this moment, and not solely in one country anymore where maybe something is going on, but it's really spread all over the globe, and people are a little more tense. So you probably will experience that when you are out with your clients. Maybe they are more like, we are free and we are out and take more risks. I don't know, and I believe that's what I see and hear, the feedback that I get. from people that just people are a little more tense. So we have to tiptoe more around other people's moods, even, at work and at home, because there's so much going on.
Yeah, tiptoeing is a word that has come up a lot lately, and I've never felt that I had to do that around anyone before. And I have amazing colleagues who are mentally strong, calm, balanced, super cool, fun. But I noticed that people are a little bit easily triggered because for 3 years ago, when before everything happened, if a catering company didn't deliver exactly everything correct, or a driver was 10 minutes late, it was like, yeah, it's okay. And now they can be like, they can have a reaction that's a complete overreaction, and I'm like, where is this coming from? And I compare this season, the atmosphere here, to New Year's Eve. I stopped celebrating New Year's Eve for many years. I blamed it on my dogs, but everyone knows that my dogs is not scared of fireworks. So
Yeah.
that was a ridiculous excuse. But when you have so much expectations of a night, that you plan so much in advance, and we are gonna have fun, yes, and then they try to have fun, but with all this tension behind them, and it's just some kind of anti-climax. I don't know. The vibe is very different.
Yeah, I see that too. And of course, I see that also with my clients as a behavioral analyst and coach, that some people really don't know how to deal, sometimes even with their own behavior, because they don't even recognize themselves anymore. But also a lot with their clients or colleagues or even family members, because so much has changed. And what I see is that people are really, because of all the stress and also all the influence that we get, into our homes from social media and television. I mean, that's not a lot of positivity on there, right? So, and that in combination with all the tension that is going on already, maybe people losing loved ones or their jobs, or maybe are on furlough, that they are like so tense and well, snap, I always say, right? Something triggers them way more easily because they are so tense already that yeah, it's easy to just snap. Little snappies sometimes, it doesn't have to be all like a big explosion, but I just see that a lot.
Yeah, and that worries me a bit, when people who are usually very calm and balanced and cool with everything, that they snap suddenly. So the stress must be very
Yeah.
very extreme out there, because everyone is coming in from somewhere in the world, and it's from all over the world. So we who live here is in our own little cocoon. So I don't really follow exactly everything that's going on in the world, especially now working 15 hours per night. But yeah, I'm definitely noticed, and you know more about why and why this is happening, and what can people do to help themselves and their surrounding, because I don't think anyone wants to snap or go into
No, but
these.
I think we are naturally given that action, really. And that's because we are just all born with a threat detection system in our brain. And normally, when things are calmer, you overthink things and, react accordingly. But now, because everything is really tense, we are really more and more behaving or acting on our threat detection system. What I see, I call it threat detection system. It's the easiest because it has all difficult names. It's in essence, it's called a limbic system with all kinds of like little parts, let's say, where it exists of. And that's where your hormones come from and your emotions. And that's also how we normally react. Normally, it works perfectly, but now oftentimes we have more, I call them misfires that we
Yeah.
act to. And easily explained about misfires that we usually have is, for instance, what you see in sports when a tennis player is not winning the match, and all of a sudden he just smashes his racket, right? And it breaks, and we are like, geez, yeah, you can understand it, but he's like in that moment of anger. But you would like say, why would he be that angry that he smashes his racket? And that's the same what if we bring it to ourselves, that we sometimes have. If, for instance, you are working on your computer and the internet is really slow, but you have to send something and it's not working, or it's not working at all, and instead of kicking your screen because the internet's not going to work any faster, and you get at anger, what you would think is, normally when everything is calm, probably we would think like, okay, well, we will try it in an hour. But now we are all so tense. It's the same as when your phone doesn't work, when you need it, or you get a text message while you're already just so high in your emotion and you don't like the text message and you want to hurl your phone across the room, let's say. Or when you are in traffic and you're stuck in a traffic jam while you are in a hurry, you start cursing.
Mm.
Well, I mean,
Mm.
the traffic jam is not going to go away with it, but it's just what our system does. We are responding to our environment, and the more tense you are, the faster you respond in that way. Well, normally it would, work in an amazing way. We have a lot of heroes responding with that mechanism. When you see something saving someone, and all of a sudden they were like, when they are interviewed after, they were like, I was not really thinking, I was just acting. I don't know why I did it. It was just, at that moment, I was just doing it. And afterwards I was like, oh my gosh, I just maybe even risked my own life, but I just did it. And that is the same mechanism, but only in a positive way. Or when you see that sometimes you read that in a newspaper or see that on the internet nowadays, that a tiny woman all of a sudden lifts up a 3,000-pound car because her kid got underneath, right? Normally you would not have that strained and you would not snap that fast, but because of that, and the adrenaline that also comes from that system just helps you be able to do all those amazing things. And those are not misfires. But now, because
Yeah.
everything is so stressed and tense, people just snap a little more, and oftentimes nowadays also in a bad way. And people get stuck in it also in bad thoughts, of course, and as you see with the riots. And it's not just a protest anymore, but it ends up in riots and violence and breaking things. We see that now with police and military and a lot of people in security and even hospitality that have people screaming and even sometimes hurting them. So there is a lot going on now.
Yeah. Certainly, the tension is very high, and we had a robbery attempt on a client that we have worked for many years, and we dealt with the situation, and everything was according to how it's supposed to. What I call like a school book example of how we dealt with it. And the client is always very calm and extremely used to having security and very aware of the job we are doing. But suddenly he or she said to me the day after, I want more security. And me and another colleague explained that it's not necessary. You have like a full force here to deal with this situation, because that was a pretty high level robbery attempt. But security is not always about the client being safe. The client needs to feel safe as well. And if this was 3 years ago, he or she would never ask for more. But I guess the things that's going on in the world is creating fear in many people.
Yeah, people feel unsafe more often. But I also see that people take more risks. So it's kind of a balance, right? That's what we discussed a little earlier with just going on blind dates. And don't leave any message behind for the people at home, like where you are, or because maybe you're a little bit ashamed, or maybe you just don't want anyone to know, or but still, like we were discussing, and I thought it was a great remark that you gave about, if you don't want to share, that's fine, but at least leave a trace somewhere. And maybe you can expand on that, because I thought it was a great thing with leaving that last trace.
Because I understand that as we discussed in our previous episode, we want people to live, we want people to date, we want people to have a life online and in real life and have fun, and we just want to add this little bit, make everyone a little bit more aware and take some safety measures. And one very simple thing to do is that if you go on one of these date platforms, or if you are going on a date with someone that you don't know, and you're not paying for the dinner, go to the bar, buy a water, an espresso, or pay tip, just anything on your card, so there is a last trace of you. Because that's going to help the police a lot in the search, where because from there they can follow cameras, etc., because it's cameras more or less everywhere today. And if it's not possible to do it in a restaurant, maybe it's possible to find an excuse to go to an ATM, because they also have cameras. So try to leave a digital footprint if you are taking these kind of risks.
Yeah, at least they, if anything happens and you disappear, they have some starting point, right? To where they can search from, like, oh, she made like a payment there digitally. And we maybe, as you said, there are cameras, and we can, or ask people, or, maybe see in what car she jumps. So, yeah.
Yeah, without going too much into police work, because if someone just leave their home and nobody knows for what reasons, there is like so many different scenarios they have to work with, everything from kidnapping to so if they can find out fast that she was on a date there.
And we are now living in a time and era where we can at least leave that last trace if we want to. Of course, it's not always possible, but if we can, and if we teach that, and that's why we make these kind of podcasts, and in our work we try to make people a little bit more aware. We share our tips, let's say, and this is one of those tips and tricks that I think are amazing for at least women alone, but a lot of times nowadays also, of course, men or boys who are still nowadays, having trouble sometimes in clubs or go with someone. And I believe I said that the last time that we spoke, that there was a little boy that also thought he could trust someone online and met with a guy, but didn't leave an address. So we just don't want that to happen to anyone.
No, this is the thing that we work with this full time, and this is what we see. And uh, I understand that some people don't want to think about these things, that it's happening and it's not going to happen to me, and etc. And you can prevent a lot from happening with doing small measures. I think I live life to the fullest, but I also I have I take precautions, and I don't take unnecessary risks that are like, it needs to be worth it if it's
Yeah.
gonna.
I have the
Yeah.
feeling, though, that more and more people are aware that they need to do something, and I see out more girls and boys maybe that are bullied going into, for instance, a martial art like a
Mm,
kickboxing or a Krav Maga that you do. And
mm.
I think that's amazing too. But we also always say, like, don't think that with 10 lessons or just one course of maybe 7 weeks that you know how to fight, you know?
No, and you said something very good there. If you have trained, if you haven't trained enough, and you decide to interact in a situation and you're not skilled enough, you make you put yourself at risk, because to be good in a fight, in a street fight, that's a lifestyle level of training. But what I love with Krav Maga is that it starts and ends with awareness, with
Neat.
not
I like it.
letting people too close. I can explain the road if someone comes up to me, and the culture around the Mediterranean is often that people come very close to you,
Yeah.
and I don't like people in my red zone, so it's fine. We can I'm more than happy to help you, but we can talk from a distance, what I call, so people can't come close enough to grab you. Um, so small things like that. Um, and also, I mentioned to you that uh, I have this horrible tight dress on, and heels, and I'm not going to be able to move in these clothes.
Yeah.
I can't run. Let's be honest. All women know how limited the movements are in these kind of clothes. And I have a pre-packed sandwich bag with like the cheapest gym tights you can find, and the top, which is like, yeah, maybe 10 euros altogether. And these foldable shoes, I think you can use them on boats or something.
Yeah.
And it all goes into a sandwich bag that I put in my bag. So I often drive, and the area I go to, the parking doesn't have any cameras. So I go to the bathroom and I change to this. It's more comfortable, and most importantly, if I can't run, I mean, I'm putting myself at risk. And it's completely dark at that parking, and a lot of people sitting cars, etc. So for me, that's the kind of unnecessary risk I'm not prepared to take.
Yeah. And I think that's also a really good tip. But I also see that a lot of people are not trained enough, especially not emotionally, to deal with that. So they will not recognize that. They will not get dressed, in time from their, let's say, tight dress and high heels to that legging sports suit or whatever, because you have to have time. And also, and we discussed this, I think also with the two of us, and I've discussed it with other people as well, because I do talk to a lot of instructors actually about people that come to class to train. But usually what I see, and thankfully I now see it also, that they start as kids, because finally parents see the benefit of it, and it's not to fight just to fight, but really to give their kids some extra cover and resistance and mental strain and also physical, tactical strain. But what I see is also that a lot of people who have already been through a traumatic experience all of a sudden decide to go and train, which is amazing. And I applaud that very much. But I also see that sometimes when they are confronted, when you explain the exercise, let's say, then it all goes well. But when they are confronted and, for instance, have to spar, or then it's really sometimes triggering them back into that trauma. And what I unfortunately see is that also a lot of people then who really had finally the courage to do something about their fear don't come back. So it's really good for instructors, and I think even for close protection and executive protection people, as also really for police, but they are more confronted with it, to recognize or maybe even ask questions in a certain way before you start working with them or training with them, if they have been through a certain trauma. Because I believe that helps, because then when something happens, you can remember like, oh, okay, they told me about that. So they might respond in maybe a way that they are anxious or cry or just maybe start screaming or just completely just shut down, right? And be in their own little world. So that's what I just hear also a lot. And I think it's then the moment that you have to just get that bond with or your client or maybe the person that is training with you, if you are an instructor or if you are a trainer, to get to move them forward, instead of then maybe let them go home and then have the chance or risk that they never come back. And with that, they don't learn, because then for them, it's another traumatic experience. And I see that a lot. I talk to, as I said, a lot of trainers and instructors, and also, of course, people in protection, but also a lot of victims. And what I hear, and of course, I'm not sharing a lot about myself, but I once, back 30 years, was one of those people. When I was a kid, I've been through severe abuse and trafficking and kidnapping and being chained and all that. And I just really, when I came out of that, for me, it was like, I don't want to be a victim. I want this experience to at least be useful and help other people with it. And of course, that was a struggle, at first, because you are confronted with yourself all the time. But now, 30 years later, even longer, after working in safety and security both, and being in riskful environments and being confronted with so much, as also, of course, my studies, I now find that I have not only a program that I work with to help people, but also for myself. I came out so much stronger, and I just want to motivate people to really just do that and bring people together. So I'm usually oftentimes also a mediator between clients and, for instance, close protection, or trainees and trainers or instructors, just to bring them together, just to make them understand each other better, and just to come out stronger, both, and wiser, both, right?
Yeah, the journey you have done and the woman you are today. I know you don't love when I call you my superhero, but you are, it's extraordinary. I'm so impressed by you, and I have so much respect for you. You have no idea. But I'm not allowed to say that. So yeah, only say it once per podcast.
Yeah, no, it's again, I don't want to talk about it, because I don't want to have that stamp on me. For me, it's really about, this is my calling and I need to do this. And that's why we also have this podcast together, because it's your calling as well. You just want to make, this world maybe a better place, right? And safer place, at least.
Yes, and we mentioned the world is on fire and misfires, and And I see a lot of small fires that can be turned into bigger fires unless people are a bit more careful. And I think it's important today, in the world that we live today, that we are more careful with how we communicate, that we are clear in our message, what we want to say to others, what I want and what I don't want, and not go into unnecessary discussions. For example, I don't understand how medical decisions, political views, religion, that was always something that was private. And for me, it should be private. I'm not prepared to share anything of my medical decisions or discuss politics. I do with a few close friends, but people can just randomly just ask if, we're not going to mention the word, but what decision am I going to make? A medical decision. That's none of your business. It's private.
Yeah, and what you say, communication in general. I mean, people just. I think it's also because we now, let's say, have this screen, and it feels like people can say way more, that they are not immediately attacked or something, and also feel more free just to share something, and that can also make you really vulnerable, right? So you also have to be careful not to become a target, whether it be vulnerable or aggressive. And that's, for instance, why we have a lawyer going over our podcast and over our articles when we write something or when we speak somewhere. It's kind of silly almost that it's necessary, but I'd rather be safe than sorry, because out of goodness, sometimes you want to share everything because you're so open and really have nothing to hide. But some people take offense in so many things. And then we come back to that tiptoeing, right? Tiptoeing around what you can say, what you can ask. Also, you said that really rightly about the religion and political opinion or medical history. I mean, that's really only for some to ask, maybe work related, but not so much for every stranger that crosses your path, just to openly discuss that.
No, and sometimes I notice some people almost want to go into these just to trigger something because they are in the mood to have a discussion. And I think it's important to not take that bait, but to, I'm not discussing my medical decision or my political decision or this and that, and just put a stop to it. Because we should be polite and we should be open and we should communicate with others. But if people are sensing that someone is after, to trigger something, don't put fuel on that fire. Try to find an excuse and leave.
I think we should all try to be a little more kinder in any ways. I mean, it's so much we are looking, it looks like that we are always looking for somebody else's fault, right? Or what somebody else did wrong, instead of just having a one-on-one communication or a conversation with that person and just talk about it with that person. Everything needs to go public immediately. And I'm like, why just not be a little kinder and more understanding? Because what I see is people are looking for differences and put fire on it, like and oil, right, to just make it big. Well, I am like, we have so many things in common as well. Why don't we find common grounds? Why don't we try to find the good in people and go from there? Because the more you try to find the differences and go angry, the more we get divided. And
Yes.
I think that's what I'm seeing more and more now. And it really makes me sad almost, because I
Yeah.
always try to bring people together and want to do the right thing. And it's okay if you sometimes have a different opinion.
Yeah, yeah, of course. And there is a time and place for discussions, for heavier topics and discussion. As I mentioned to you, I have a journalist friend. We can sit for hours and hours and empty, I don't know how many pots of espresso, because we have so much to talk about. But when I have dinners here, it's some discussions, they are full on banned, because I want a positive, easy, just simple topics. I rather discuss wallpapers than yeah, pandemics or anything like that, because we, especially when we work in the kind of work that we do, that's not always positive. We need to during our free time, it needs to be good and positive and not so heavy,
Yeah.
because it tends to escalate to heavier and heavier the further these conversations go. So yeah, I'm a master of bringing out some pointless subject and just be clowny to distract the situation. And I think it's important that everyone try to those who feel that they need to save themselves from discussions online or in real life, that it's perfectly fine not to. You don't have to answer everything. Don't take the bait if someone is trying to provoke you. It's okay to
That for sure not, but I also think that people should just stop provoking, all the
yeah,
time.
that would be the
It's
dream.
like it's becoming normal and acceptable. And also, especially what people did in their past. And I'm like, we are not now here, and we all want to move forward. And I bet each of us in on this globe has made mistakes or done things wrong. And one to an extent that's of course way worse than the other. But then we have already a system for that, with judges that send people to where to go. And I'm not saying that's always according to my liking, because sometimes, of course, people do horrible things. And especially what I see working in the anti-human trafficking sector, for instance, I'm like, why do they hardly get punished, the people that do it? And I wish that was tougher and harder. But on the other hand, I'm also seeing people that have maybe done some things and are now doing great and really repent and are not proud of what they did and want to move forward, but they are being stopped every time because people just bring up things from their past, because everything nowadays is online, right? So people cannot move
Yeah.
forward and give each other a chance. So okay, again, some people should not have a chance anymore. They just ruined all their chances by some of the deeds they did. But some people really should have chances. And I really believe that if we can all just be a little nicer to each other, and if you don't like people, or if you don't like what you see, especially on the social media forums, just keep scrolling. Why do you have to say something, right? Just
Exactly.
yeah, keep your opinion to yourself. Sometimes it's really of no use other than putting fuel on something. So yeah, I really would like to people become more aware, not only for the dangers, but also just to look out for each other more, because we need that so much in this time.
Yeah, because this is the with this behavior, if we can change that, then we can prevent the bigger things from happening. Because if someone is easily triggered and you go into a confrontation and it escalates, we had a shooting here at the party. So two guys with guns, and both were shot. I mean, I don't know the background of it, but don't escalate situations with other people in the world that we live in now, because everyone, more or less everyone on this planet is affected in one way or another, worrying about the money. Are we going to be able to work? Are we going to be able to travel? Are we going to go into lockdown? It's a very difficult times. So keep it calm and be kind, and as you say, understand that the other person might struggle as well, and give someone a break if they had a bad day and they said something or did something or behaved in a way that was not perfect. Maybe they had the reasons and they come the day after and say, I'm sorry about my behavior. Don't spread it to the whole world that that person did this and that. It's just unnecessary, and now is not the time.
Especially not now, I believe. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. So I think we've discussed at least a bit about the life after, when everything was in lockdown, because things are opening up and the tension, and we want to be people to become more aware. But I would love to hear from people whom are listening, just to drop it down here on YouTube in our comments what you think, or do you have any subjects that you would like us to discuss? Again, we are not all knowing. We just do what we have experienced, or share, let's say, what we have experienced, and try to give tips and tricks.
To do what we can. This is what we are trying to do. So please comment with if there is anything you would like us to discuss next time, or if you have any questions about what we have discussed today. If you have had a situation that you might not want to leave in a public comment, you can also inbox our channel, and so we can discuss it in the next episode. Without, of course, we would never mention any names or details. So let us know what you want to know. We will do our very best to help everyone as much as we can.
Yes, that's it, folks.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.